All right. Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I'm back. Time to get back to work. I just got back from Antigua, small island in the Caribbean. Maybe some of you guys have been there, or as the locals call it, Antigua. Apparently, Antigua, ending in UA, is Spanish pronunciation, and Antigua, just ending in an A, is English pronunciation. So they all say it Antigua. So I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't know that was the name of it. But that was a great time. If anybody's been there, you know it's beautiful, beautiful water. The people were pretty, kind of rude. They weren't real engaged, so that was a little disappointing. The staff, but ran into a lot of people from the UK, a lot of Brits there. It used to be a British controlled territory, and so apparently that's still where the Brits go to vacation. It's like everybody there was British, so I got into some good conversations there. Went with my whole family. There was 21 of us, so that was pretty entertaining. A lot of drinking, a lot of sun, a lot of having fun, some excursions. It was a great time. Um, if you guys have ever been there, you would know. So if you guys have any comments, I got the live comments on. I'll try to pay attention to them as much as possible. Don't forget to like the video, give it hype points, subscribe, comment, share, all that kind of stuff, so that my videos can get out there more, and we can have more interactions, and I can have more interactions with you guys. I ran into quite a few guys from the UK, and we had some good conversations about politics and stuff, and it was pretty interesting. I was chatting with these two blokes, probably in their late 50s, just about what was going on in the UK, and kind of gauging what do the young people think about what's going on there? What do the people think? Is migration really a problem? What do people think of Starmer and all this kind of stuff? And it was pretty interesting because he from the things I'm seeing, there's a lot of young people who are going towards restore. I mean, I think it's mostly young men going towards restore, and they want serious immigration crackdown and all that kind of stuff. And but they were like, no, the young people, they're all way to the left. They're extreme left, and so part of the mostly part of the Green Party and things like that. But and that is true. I mean, a majority of them are, I think, in favor of the Green Party. But it was fun. I ran into a guy from the Isle of Man. I don't really know anything about the Isle of Man, but I had to go and look it up and see what it was all about. So some nice guys. And anyway, had a great time. I always love meeting people from the UK. They're always a good time. Met a lady there who was pretty drunk. She was there because a friend of her apparently was rowing her boat there all the way from Europe. And so we started talking to her, and then by the time we got done, we're like, I don't know, is this real? Is this legit? That you have a friend who's literally physically rowing a boat across the Atlantic Ocean? That seems pretty ridiculous. And is she just making this shit up? And, because she had so many to drink, we're like, she's kind of just crazy. So we were talking about it the next day, sitting at breakfast, and we had mentioned that, I don't know if I really believe that that's true or not. We hadn't really looked into it. And as we were talking, a couple from the UK walked past us, and they overheard our conversations, and they immediately said, "Oh yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, it's true. It's a whole thing. We've got like 1,000 people or 100 people who are rowing boats from the Canary Islands just off the coast of Spain, and they're rowing them 3,200 miles all the way down to Antigua. And they were at the harbor right next to our resort. And they said, you can walk over there and you can see the rowboats. They're all parked there, or some of them are parked there in the harbor. And so 3,200 miles these people are rowing all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. I didn't know you could row a boat across the Atlantic Ocean. How crazy is that? So that was really fascinating. We ran into a couple people who were there to greet their one was his brother, and then this was her sister, just her friend. And what apparently it was for charity. or something. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. I always like running into Brits. You know, they usually have a pretty good sense of humor. You can usually joke with them quite a bit, and it's always a pleasant time. It's like that with Australians too. I always like talking to Australians. They're funny. They have a great sense of humor. They always are cracking jokes, and they're always super funny. So yeah, had a good time doing that. You know, there's a lot going on in the world here today. So we're gonna be talking about quite a bit of stuff. Where there's a new stat. There's been some new stats coming out about welfare with immigrants. There's new stats coming out about the movement of people in the U.S. from blue states to red states and the economic impacts of that. And that's pretty fascinating. There's more, like I've been saying, there's more right wing energy growing and growing and growing in Europe and South America. Uh, Looks like Chile's cracking down on socialists and communists and stuff like that. So they're on their way back to prosperity. And everybody's just kind of ready to throw off the yoke of this leftist, sort of socialist, quasi communist, um, state authority forcing us into being multicultural and diverse and taking our opportunities and globalizing and stealing our industry and depressing our economies and stagnating our wages. And so in like the last 20 years, in England, the people are no richer over the last 25 years. Everything has stayed flat. Same in Canada, and especially the youth, young people are getting tired of it. They don't want to live in a world like, can you guys hear me all right? Is my mic working? Let me just check something. Yeah, it should be. Test. Hello? Is it working? All right. Somebody let me know in the comments if my mic's not working. That would suck. So anyway, there's a lot of this right-wing energy, populism. People want to go back to nationalism. They want to have their country. They want to have their borders. They want to have their people. They want to be a nation again. And for the last 80 years, the whole energy, the whole globalist elites, the leaders, the WEF, the UN, all these groups has all been about globalization. It's all been about not being nationalistic. It's all about not putting your people first. It's all about putting the globe first and the world first. And so you should let the third world people into your country so that they can improve their lot, so that we can improve their countries, so that people don't want that anymore. It's bankrupting countries. It's destroying economies. It's stagnating wages. It's increasing all the prices of everything, housing and food and insurance. All those are going through the roof because there's too much consumption, too much usage, and the normal people are the ones, the citizens of those countries are the ones who have to pay for it all, because the immigrants are all on welfare, which is then another burden on the citizens. And especially in the West, people are sick and tired of that. It's a little bit of a different story in South America, South and Central America, because it's more so about socialism just completely crushing their economies and making everyone poor as shit. And that can only last for so long, where you put your boot on the neck of your populace before they rise up and they say, we need something different. We need somebody who's actually going to care about us, who's actually going to take care of us, who's actually going to care about our concerns. And so that's where we're at. And this is there's a poll that came out in Germany. The AfD is making waves there, especially among the young people. And they're looking to take back their country as well. So, all right. You guys, if you guys can't hear me, let me know, please. I'm looking at my mic here, and I'm not sure it's working, but let me know. Okay, so one of the most interesting things is that the people are moving out of blue states and they're moving to red states. Now, I know that people who are Democrats don't like to admit this, and they don't like to talk about this because it makes them look bad. And they look at the populations and they always do. This is their cope. California hasn't lost any population, and California has the fourth largest economy in the world, so we're doing just fine. Well, you're not going to have the fourth largest economy in the world for long because people are moving out of there like crazy, and then you're just bringing in third world immigrants in order to prop up your population, but then they're all on welfare, and then the billionaires are moving out of your country, they're taking their businesses, so there's not going to be as the tax revenue and the social services, and then you're blowing a bunch of money on stupid shit that's not even accomplishing anything. So it's not surprising to anybody who's just a normal person who's paying attention to these things. It's not surprising that people would be moving out of blue states because the regulations are onerous, the cost of living is higher, the DEI policies and the gay stuff and the trans stuff, it's just like all crazy. Taxes are through the roof, property taxes through the roof. So why would you want to stay there? Why wouldn't you move to a red state where there's no income tax, right? Where there's fewer regulations, where houses are cheaper, the property taxes are cheaper, there's jobs, makes sense. So, all right, let's get to our first video here. This is about exactly what I'm talking about.
Newly released IRS data showing red states gained $39 billion in net income in 2023. So compare that to blue states, they lost $43 billion. Madison Allworth is live from New York City with more. And Madison, even I can do that math.
Yes, Dana. Money moves. And new IRS data from 2023 shows where hardworking Americans are taking their hard-earned dollars. Overall, states that wound up voting for President Trump in 2024 saw that net income gain of $38.9 billion, while states that voted for former Vice President Kamala Harris lost $42.5 billion. Florida was by far the big winner with $20.6 billion in net gains, followed by Texas at $5.3, South Carolina with $4.1 billion. That is people leaving other states to move to these no income or low income tax states. At the bottom of the list, California lost $12.9 billion in net income, followed by New York, Illinois, and Massachusetts with losses of 10.5, 6.1, and 4.1 billion respectively. This is not just about the taxable income leaving. When families leave, so do their businesses, their jobs, and their recreational dollars. But rather than learning from past mistakes, states that lost residents and their income are looking to increase taxes. Washington State, which lost over $549,000 in net income, just passed a millionaire's tax this month after being a no-income tax state. California eyeing a billionaire's tax, and New York is also looking at increasing taxes on the wealthy. Tax experts say money has never been more mobile with remote work and AI. And truly the perfect case study is Massachusetts. They passed a millionaire's tax that went into effect in 2023. That year, the state lost 41,000 residents, and they took with them $4.2 billion in adjusted gross income. Those in the highest tax bracket accounted for 70% of that money. The math doesn't lie, Dana.
No.
Well, all right. Sorry, guys. I got to just double check this. Okay. All right. We're good. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, that is massive. That's massive. So the numbers here, just to repeat what they were talking about, newly released IRS data shows red states gained $39 billion in net income. So that's going to be a ton of taxes. Some of these places, they don't tax that, but that money is going to be spent on other things. So sales taxes are going to go up. They're going to buy property, so you're going to get more property tax income compared to blue states that lost $43 billion. This is in 2023. You know that this has increased since then. This has gone up since then for sure. Yeah. So Florida gained 20 billion and Texas gained 5 billion, South Carolina 4.1 billion. So California lost 13 billion, New York 10 billion, Illinois 6 billion, and Massachusetts 4 billion. So money talks, and people are voting with their feet. This is why Trump is interested in redoing the census. When the census comes out, I mean, this is going to be wild because you're going to get the populations of red states are growing like crazy. And if you don't count legal or illegal immigrants, they're going to gain far more seats when the census happens, because you've got all these people who are moving to red states. They're fleeing blue states. These are citizens. And what that means is that the red states are going to get more apportionment of congressional votes, congressional seats. They're going to get more electoral votes. So when you have policies, Virginia is going to be on here before too much longer, because the policies that are happening in Virginia are absolute madness after Spangberger got elected. She is making the craziest laws, and everything is moving so fast, and they're doing the wildest leftist shit imaginable. And so people are going to start moving out of there too. Florida's probably going to get those people as well. So Florida gained $20 billion in gross income. That is massive. So here's kind of a chart that's summing up something very similar. This is Americans. Americans moved $254 billion in income to red states over a 5-year period from 2019 to 2023. So that previously what I was talking about was just in the year 2023. This is over a 5-year period, 2019 to 2023. And look at this. Red states gained $250 billion and blue states lost $250 billion. Red states gained over 3 million people as the blue states lost those 3 million people. This is absolutely destructive to Democrat policies. You can see this is what people think of Democrats running their states. This is what people think of the Democratic policies. 3 million people leave. They leave their home state, leave their family, leave their friends because it's too onerous, it's too burdensome, it's too restrictive, it's too everything. And it's unfortunate because a lot of these Democrat states are beautiful states. California is an amazing state with all of this natural beauty, the beach, the coast, the weather, the everything. It's the best natural state in the U.S. It's got everything you could want. But their leaders are fucking morons. And so they're driving people away. So this is not a good chart at all for Democrats and for Democrat policies. And why do you suppose people are leaving Democrat states? There's lots of reasons. One of which is, stuff like this. It's the illegal immigrant stuff. People don't realize how much of a burden illegal immigrants are on the society. Even legal immigrants. They cost billions and billions of dollars in welfare. They're on housing. They're on welfare. They're at the emergency room. They get into wrecks at higher rates. They cause crime. They run down property values. They use up rental property so that the price of rental property goes up. It's just across the board. There's problems. And so when people see their state taking those people more seriously than their actual citizens, they don't like that. When they feel like their leaders are not listening to them or representing them the way that they would like, that they're not listening to that they don't want to educate all these people and have their property taxes pay. It's like $20,000 to educate one kid. So you get 1,000 kids in there. You're talking a huge chunk of money, a huge burden on the property owners who are the locals. And then those immigrants will take their welfare. They'll lie on their tax forms so that they don't actually pay taxes, because they'll say they have like 6 kids, and then they'll never file taxes, and they'll never pay in anything to the system. They'll take the money that they make, they'll send half of it back to their country, so it's not circulating in the local economy. There's all kinds of issues with it. and it makes your state poorer. So why would anybody want to live like that? And it's always supposed to be, oh, we're supposed to have compassion on these poor people. They just want a better life. They just want to come here and take your stuff. And why is that so bad that they just want to use you and abuse you? And they see that you have so much, so they just want to come there and they want some of it. Well, too bad.
A new study finds that 61% of illegal immigrant households collect some sort of welfare, which is almost double the rate of people born in the United States. The Washington Times reports that children have a significant role in getting that aid. Let's bring in the author of that article, Washington Times political editor Stephen Dinan. Stephen, great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us. So break this down for us. How is it that children play this role in helping households led by illegal immigrants to get 61% of which get some kind of welfare?
I would have thought, now maybe I'm crazy, but I would have thought that it was not legal for illegal immigrants to be on any kind of welfare. That would just be my natural, because why would they be? Don't you have to provide some kind of documentation, give us a social security number, have an ID? Don't you have to have some kind of proof of something that you are who you are? How can you be illegal and get housing vouchers? Aren't the housing authorities required to make sure that you are who you say you are, that you're a citizen of the area? Apparently there's no oversight to any of these programs. Apparently it's just like, yeah, anybody can just use it. Anybody, yeah, sure, you want it? Here you go, here you go, here you go. You make $1 million, you want to use it? Sure, you go ahead and you use it too. And they're just handing this stuff out like candy, not really checking anybody, not vetting anybody, not caring who it is. They're just like, oh, it's a needy person, so here you go. Here's money from taxpayers that you don't deserve. I literally thought that it was impossible for illegals to take any SNAP benefits or welfare of any kind. And I was way off, because apparently 61% of just illegals are on welfare. That doesn't even include the legal immigrants. And it's something like 55% of them are also on some kind of welfare. So they come to our country. They don't pull their own weight. They cost more than they produce. And we're supposed to be okay with this. We're supposed to be happy to lose money and to get poorer and poorer after we've built all of this stuff in this country. They're supposed to then they have a right to take our stuff. They have a right to our money. They have a right to our housing. They have a right. How is there shouldn't even be a single illegal immigrant on any social program at all. Zero. If you can't make it here yourself, you don't belong here. We don't need to subsidize your life. We got our own problems. We got our own bills. We got our own things we need to spend our money on. This doesn't even include all the illegals who've run scams and who've stolen money from things like autism programs or Leering Center programs and all that. That's in the tens of billions at least. And then you put on top of that the welfare that's tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And you look at their economic output and it's next to nothing. You look at what they pay into the system, it's almost nothing. Because not only are they stealing money through welfare, they're also stealing money through, if they are employed, they have a fake social security number, fake documents. They get a job with those. They never pay their taxes. They say they have 6 kids so that no money is taken out of their paychecks. And then they just never file their taxes and keep all the money and send half of it back to their home country. What exactly is the benefit here? Maybe some farm gets cheap labor to help pick something. Maybe a packing plant gets cheap labor to help cut up carcasses. There's no benefit to just the normal person who's a taxpayer.
Yeah, you think that generally there's this sense that illegal immigrants aren't eligible for welfare benefits. And by and large, that's true. There are some exceptions, pregnant women, and there are actually some tax credits that can go to illegal immigrants who are here but who have work permits. But most of that welfare use is coming to their U.S.-born children to illegal immigrant-headed households. So you have a parent or two parents who are here illegally, but they have children who are born here, and that's very common, and those are U.S. citizen children. They're entitled to welfare, all sorts of benefits, food, school lunch programs, food stamps, even housing assistance can go to those U.S. citizen children. And so, of course, that floats the whole family. So 61% of these families, as you said, use at least one welfare benefit. And the welfare use is pretty consistent across those programs I just talked about. Those kids, Medicaid is another big one. It's called the Women, Infant, and Children Program, and they're eligible for that as well. So it's the children that are the sort of the access point here. Yeah, and the real interesting thing here is that it's not that the immigrant families don't work as hard.
This is why we need to end the birthright citizenship. These kids are costing us money, and they're going to be on welfare probably for the rest of their lives, costing us money the rest of their lives. If you look at the charts, first generation is on welfare, second generation is on welfare, even to the third generation, they're still on welfare. It's crazy. Why are we doing this? It makes absolutely no sense. It's completely irrational. It's not beneficial to our society. All this has to change. All of it.
Or that they aren't taking jobs. In fact, the studies generally show that they work at a higher rate than the native-born population. The issue is that most immigrants, or immigrants as a whole, and illegal immigrants in particular, they're less educated, less skilled. The profile of the average illegal immigrant coming is less skilled, and therefore they're going to need more assistance. They earn less and end up needing more assistance to live and remain here in the U.S.
Another thing that's kind of interesting about this is that the illegal immigrant population is drawing welfare at a higher rate than the legal migrant population.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were just talking about, that driver, right? Yeah. Even the legal immigrant population is, for a period of time, they're actually, in maybe about 15 years ago, they were actually approaching, the average legal immigrant was approaching the U.S.-born level of educational levels and whatnot. But the illegal immigrant population is overwhelmingly less educated, less skilled, and working those lower income jobs, and therefore they need this assistance. And it really does challenge this notion, right? For as long as there's been a welfare system, there's been this notion in U.S. law that immigrants shouldn't have access to that they shouldn't become a burden on the taxpayers. They should pay their own way. And what the study shows is that, well, if that's the goal, there's a long way to go to get there.
Yeah, and I know you've spent a lot of time studying what potential migrants in other countries learn and know about the United States. Does this wind up being a draw for a lot of those people in foreign countries who are maybe thinking about coming to the United States illegally?
Yeah, to some extent. It's not that they're saying, hey, I'm going to get food stamps if I go to the U.S., but the overall quality of life, the ability to live and remain here, with that support. Yeah. First of all, they see it from relatives who are already here. They're like, oh, they're making it. They have this assistance. We talked about this before. One of the most amazing things is the amount of information that flows back to home countries through social media, letting them know, hey, things are fine. Come on in.
Stephen Dunn, always appreciate you breaking it down.
See, this is complete bullshit. Actually, they don't need the assistance. So if you look at the remittance amounts, they send anywhere from 30 to 50% of their income back to their home countries. If they were to keep that 30 to 50% and spend it here, they wouldn't need welfare. So in a way, they're sending our money, our welfare money, back to their countries. So we're not only are we subsidizing them to be here, we're subsidizing their whole family back in their home country. They do not need this help. They do not need welfare. They make enough money to live. They make enough money to survive. They make enough money to pay for their kids. They make enough money to feed their children. They make plenty of money They're doing fine. To treat them like they're some, oh, woe is them, they have to, how else are they going to survive? Well, go back to your country then and survive. I don't know. It's not my problem. We don't have to pay for you to live here. We don't have to pay for your house so that you can live here illegally. That is so fucking insane. I cannot believe that that's even a thing. If you move to Mexico, they're going to pay you to live there. They're going to give you a house. They're going to pay for your food. They're not going to pay for anything. And we don't need to pay for it either. And legal immigrants aren't even any better. So 53% of legal immigrants use welfare, and 61% of illegals use welfare. The average American, it's only 37%. Now, if these people were subsidizing the U.S. citizens, if these people were just working so hard and paying so much into the tax system and giving all this money and generating all this economic income and all this kind of stuff, so much so that they're actually the ones paying for our citizens to be on welfare, then that would be a different story. That's not the case, though. Not only are they not creating enough economic value, they're not creating enough tax base. They're not spending enough. They're not spending all their money here, so it's not getting taxed through sales tax and things like that. So it's because it's going back to their home countries. So we need to stop the remittances. We need to kick them all off of any kind of welfare. No welfare allowed. The welfare that they use is about $200 billion a year. $200 billion we're paying these people to live here. And we don't even want them here. And then you wonder why people are moving out of blue states, because this is the blue state mentality. Oh, yeah, we should just take all of the productive people's money and give it to the unproductive people. Well, people are tired of doing that. And here, this is a study that was done in the Netherlands. And this is the lifetime contribution, economic activity contribution for the country that the immigrant moves to. If you're a North American immigrant, all right, over your lifetime, you'll contribute $573,000 to the economy in the Netherlands. That's pretty good. That's the top. The highest quality economic immigrant you can get is somebody from North America. It's basically somebody from the United States. North America is a little deceiving because people from Mexico aren't going to live in the Netherlands. All right, it's Americans, U.S. people. Okay, Scandinavians are right behind us, 557,000 over their lifetime. Oceania, that's Australia, they're way up there. Japanese, way up there. UK, way up there. And then you get all the other groups. You get the ones at the bottom who cost money. Somalia, the worst. They cost the most money. $1.1 million they're going to cost to have them in your society. Not worth having them there. Not even close. People from the Caribbean, 675,000 they cost. Middle East, Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Central and North Africa. All these places are nothing but a drag on your society. When you let these people in, they will just take. They'll demand. They will suck your country dry of its resources, and they will produce absolutely nothing in return. There's no reason to have them. There's no reason to allow them into your country. There's no positive to it other than the liberals feeling like they're good people or something. But economically speaking, socially speaking, culturally speaking, they add nothing. They're useless. They're actually worse than useless. They're an extreme drag on the society. This was done in 2024. So it's not surprising that people are like, get these people out. But if you want to bring a Scandinavian into the country, then sure. If you want to bring a Japanese person into the country, then yeah, bring them in. They're going to actually produce economic value for us and take some of the burden off of us. Right? So a lot of these times the politicians, what they'll say is, oh, we need these people to do these low wage jobs. Oh, we need Somalians in our country so that they can drive Ubers for us and, do stupid stuff like that. And so the cost of having an Uber driver so that Uber can pay them low wages, the taxpayer is going to subsidize Uber and pay the Somalian over $1 million throughout their lifetime. Does this make any sense to anybody? We're going to bring in a bunch of people from Mexico to work in Walmart so that Walmart can pay them minimum wage so that then they can be on all the welfare benefits and they can cost us $500,000 over their lifetime. So we're basically giving Walmart $500,000 savings per person that they hire. It's madness. All right, guys, I got the comments open. If you guys want to comment, go ahead. I'll pay attention to them as close as I can. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment on the videos, all that. Engage as much as possible. I would appreciate that. So it's not surprising that the world is going to the right, especially the young people, because the young people see that chart that I was just showing you. The young people, these are the people who take the young people's jobs, right? So the low wage jobs are jobs done by young people generally because they have to work their way up to a higher skilled job, or high schoolers or people while they're in college and all that kind of stuff. They're the Uber drivers. They're the Walmart workers. Well, they bring in these immigrants to work those jobs instead. And so there's less opportunity for the native young people. And then we give these people a bunch of benefits that the native young people don't qualify for. So they're not real happy about it. And you can see that in polls like this from Germany. This is a recent poll done about the different political parties and the age ranges. So 18 to 29, you can see there at the bottom, 30 to 39, 40 to 49. And you can see that AfD, the right-wing party, is hugely favored in those demographics. Massively favored in the 18 to 29, massively favored in 30 to 39, because these people realize, what are these people doing here? Our economics have stagnated. These people we're not getting what we were promised. We are losing our culture. We're losing our voice. We're losing our ability to earn a living. We're losing everything. And we're paying to lose that. We're actually subsidizing the loss of everything. We're paying for our own demise. And it's crazy. And it makes no sense. But you can see that the older over 50 crowd, they're pretty well out of they're pretty much out of touch, especially the 70 and older. Still 28% of the 50 to 59. That's the same as the 18 to 29-year-olds, but they just don't get it. They don't see it. They still have this idea because they grew up in a country that was monocultural, and they still think of it as like it's this happy thing so that we can have shawarma and we can have curry restaurants that serve curry and authentic restaurants and stupid stuff like that. So they think it's like all kind of fun and cozy. It's kind of like traveling to another country to have some of these people in your country. They don't realize how many of these people have come into the country, the kind of problems that they cause, the kinds of disruptions of the society, the kinds of opportunities that they take from people who are young, the crime, the rape, the stabbings, the money that they cost. The older people, they don't get it because they grew up in a different time. And they still think that this is the same time. So this is very positive. This is all part of that same shift that's going on across the globe, the shift to the right. For the last 80 years, everything has been shifting to the left. It's been to the left, farther left, a little farther left, a little farther left, a little farther left, a little more rights for this group, a little more preference for that group, a little more burden on the local people. And it's just inched up and inched up and inched up. And now people have finally reached the point where they're like, okay, this has gone too far. It's gone too much. Don't want this anymore. It's not working out. We've seen how destructive things like multiculturalism and diversity and diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI stuff. We've seen how destructive all that is to the cohesiveness of our societies. And we want cohesiveness back. We want trust back. We want stability back. We want all those kinds of things that these 60 and over people grew up with. A stable society. We want that again. But these old people are the ones who destabilize the society. So they don't really understand what they've done. And this hasn't happened just in the West. It's happened all over. And people are ready to have a strong national identity again, a strong identity with their groups. They want their religions back. They want their family structure back. They don't want any of that liberal stuff anymore. It's caused too many problems. It's been too destructive. It's divided everybody. It's divided parents against their kids. It's divided wives against their husbands. And a lot of these policies weren't things that the majority of people wanted anyway in the first place. All these immigrants flooding into Europe, the people don't want them there. And this is part of the problem, is that the government has, all across the world, the leaders in the government have not listened to the people. So we haven't had real democracy. We haven't had this real democracy where the people actually get to decide what the policies are of the country and how the country functions and how the country operates. And immigration's a great one. Majority of people have always been opposed to it. Always been, for the last 60 years, opposed to it. Don't want it. Don't bring those people in here. We don't want them. We don't want them. We don't want them. We don't want them. And they say it over and over and over again. They say it. They say it. They say it. And the leaders say, "Oh, I'm sorry. What's that? You want more immigrants? We're going to bring in more immigrants." So there's only so long you can push people to this. Even things like gay marriage, like the population didn't want gay marriage. They were opposed to it. Majority of people opposed to it. I thought in a democracy, it's a majority rule situation. But there's been such an effort to undermine the majority, to see the majority as being evil, the majority as being the oppressor, even though that's the whole purpose, the whole premise behind democracy. And then at the same time, these people who have undermined the democratic process, who've undermined the majority and what the majority wants, if the majority asserts its will, they say, "Oh, democracy is being destroyed. They're trying to destroy democracy." No, they're trying to implement it again because democracy has been undermined for at least 60 years. At every turn, the people say, "We don't want illegals to get welfare." Well, too bad. Well, we don't want illegals we don't want to pay for their kids to go to school. Well, too bad. Well, we think that college admissions should be merit-based and should be based on test scores. Well, too bad. We're going to make it based on color and sex. Well, we don't want transgenders in the boys' and girls' bathrooms. Well, too bad. We know more than you because you're just a bigot. And of course, that's what the majority would think, because the majority always wants to oppress the minority and make their lives terrible. So we're going to actually make this into a minority rule country, which isn't democracy. Where the minority gets to rule your country is not a democracy. So they've disregarded the populace, disregarded the majority, disregarded their actual citizens for so long, and looked down on them and despised them and called them bigots and idiots and uneducated rubes and peons. And just like the other day when Mark Wayne Mullen was being sworn in and Jimmy Kimmel said, "Oh, well, he's a plumber. Now we got a plumber in charge of DHS. Oh, what can a plumber know?" See, just like the contempt, the looking down upon. And it's like, well, a plumber is a normal person. That's the majority of the population are like plumbers. and you just have such disdain for them. You think they're incapable of doing anything, think they're incapable of having any correct thoughts, of being intelligent at all. And so you think, well, we're just going to have to cram down our more enlightened view of the world. We're going to have to disregard everything they want. Sure, we'll let them vote or whatever, and then we'll call that democracy. But then when it comes to making policies and trying to manipulate our culture and our society, we're going to do whatever we want as the minority who are the elites. Pretty simple. And it's even worse in blue states. That's why people are leaving, because their voice is not being heard at all. Oh, hey, you guys don't want more taxes? Too bad. Here's another tax. Oh, you guys don't want these zoning laws that restrict housing so that houses are super expensive? Ah, too bad. We're going to do the zoning anyway. And if you just go down the list, it's thousands and thousands of different things in which they've done that. Thousands of things, Democrats and Republicans alike. And that's why Trump had so much energy, because they saw him as being somebody different, somebody who actually is taking the people. And this is why populism is on the rise. Because the people are like, well, we've got no voice anymore. We're the ones who are being oppressed. All right, what else we got here? Oh, yeah, speaking of democratic cities and states, this is another reason probably why people are moving out of these places. This is a list of the most dangerous cities in the U.S. and the last time they had a GOP mayor. Memphis, last time they had a GOP mayor, 1967. Detroit, 1957. And you just go right on down the list, and it's like it's been, at 60 years of Democrat rule in these states, in these towns, and they get more and more dangerous. They're dangerous. They've always been dangerous. You get Democrats in charge, you're going to get more dangerous everything. And this is because they don't really believe in the rule of law, and because they believe in stupid shit like social justice. So they think that the reason we should just let criminals out. We should the real problem is that the police are arresting people doing bad stuff, and that's a bad thing. But the people doing bad things, it's not really their fault. They grew up in a broken home, and they grew up in a poor area, and they grew up around violence, and they grew up around drugs. And so, of course, they're just going to be violent and, sell drugs and do all these things. So we can't really punish them for that. That would be mean. We can't really just lock them up, because it wasn't really their fault. All of their behaviors were simply determined and caused outside of their will and outside of any kind of personal responsibility. It was all caused by their scenario. So they're not really criminals. They're just people who were caught up and forced to do criminal acts because they grew up in a certain area around certain people. So these people don't really take crime seriously. And that's why their cities are dangerous. And the crime is through the roof. They think the cops are more dangerous than the criminals. And it's retarded. And anybody with a brain knows that's retarded. But, here we are. All the most dangerous cities are Democrat cities. Have been for a long time. Will continue to be. Somehow people keep voting these morons into power. So this was a pretty decent chart, I thought, here. So over-discussed reason for increased public support across Europe for limiting immigration from Muslim-majority countries is Islamophobia, right? Oh, if you want to limit immigration from Muslim-majority countries, then you're just an Islamophobe. But the discussion that's not talked about is all the raping that the Muslim people from Muslim majority countries do. So here's an interesting chart that shows in Germany, Afghans and Africans are proportionally 40 to 70 times more involved in gang rapes than native Germans. Look at that. Afghans, 41 times. Look at this, foreigners excluding Afghans and Africans, much lower, still nowhere close to what the Germans are. The Germans aren't doing any of this stuff. And you bring these losers into your country who are going to just rape your girls. It's disgusting. You're getting no benefit from these people. And this is, in the UK, they've just ignored it for so long. They're just like, don't bring it up. Don't talk about it. No. And so once again, not hearing and listening to their citizens, not taking seriously the concerns of the locals, and just hand waving it and saying, "Oh, they're just making it up. They're just bigots." You can't really trust what these local people say because, they're just like plumbers and stuff, and they're too dumb to really know what's going on. But we, the enlightened class, we know that these things aren't really happening, even though all the stats and all the people and all the victims say that this is going on. We're just going to act like it's not. So this is in Italy. Afghan and Pakistani citizens are proportionally 15 times more involved in rapes than Italian citizens. All these third worlders, this is what they do. They have none of the same values. A study on perpetrators of group sexual offenses in France reported that 70% of individuals in the sample were of immigrant background. %70 that they just let in like it's no big deal, as if there's some benefit to it. What were the ethnic backgrounds of Britain's gang rapists? Now look at that, 80% Pakistani, 3.6% Bangladeshi, 12.7% other Asian. I mean, take a guess, Indian, Middle Eastern, whatever. I mean, they're not from the other European countries. And then white British way down here, 3.6%. When people will say things like, well, you can't really judge them because British people rape too. It's like, well, yeah, first of all, not nearly on the scale as these other groups. They're 20 times, 50 times, 70 times more likely to rape somebody, and most likely rape somebody who's a Brit or a French citizen or a German-born citizen. They're going to rape those people most of the time. So it's a false comparison. You can't say, oh, well, because, one person from this group shot somebody, but 100 people from this smaller group over here shoot people. Therefore, they're equal. It's false equivalency. They're not equal. The rates are way different, way higher. And the people are worthless too. Like, Pakistanis aren't doing anything. They're not producing anything. They're not starting businesses. They're not running. They're not paying into taxes. They're not producing all this huge economic output that's beneficial to the country. And in addition to being a drag on society and costing the taxpayers money, they're also being allowed to rape all the young girls. And then they don't even go to prison for it. They get like 3 months, or they go on probation because they didn't know. They didn't know it was wrong. Europe has been so pathetic and weak and such pussies about this problem for so long. It is insane. Europeans are the most pussified people. They can't even stop their women from being raped by these foreigners. That's how big of pussies they are. They've done nothing. They just sit there. Well, I guess we got to let them do it because we get some shawarma. And the young group, the young people, the young guys are sick of this shit. They want to be men. They want to protect. They want to stand up for their country. They want to preserve their culture. They want to get these fuckers out of there. They want to protect the women. And that's where we're headed. That's why there's this swing to the far right. Because they want to get rid of all this kind of crap. They think it's insane that it's even been allowed to go on this long. And not only that, this is also another reason why there's a swing to the far right and why it's going to continue, because this kind of crap just keeps happening over and over and over again.
In Nottingham, there will be people in their car. Just hold on to the steering wheel. Callaghan was freed by mental health workers in Nottingham who feared that detaining him would be deemed racist.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't sectioned once because it was because of his ethnicity. Do you know, it doesn't matter what colour you are. If you're dangerous, you're dangerous. Yeah. In September 2022, he was discharged from Nottinghamshire Mental Health Trust by a senior psychiatrist who will be in the seat over the coming weeks. Who discharged him with no full risk assessment, didn't look at his notes properly, didn't note that he was wanted on warrant for arrest for an assault on a mental health worker. He discharged him back to the community because of non-attendance at appointments. He let this dangerous monster loose in September 2022. In June 2023, we know what happened. Bear in mind, in May 23, he violently assaulted co-workers in a Leicestershire factory he was working in. And the Leicestershire police officers that turned up didn't bother to put his name into the system properly. If they had, they would have seen on PNC, massive red marker, very violent. They would have seen...
They didn't put his details
Well, they
in.
said they didn't put his name in properly. However, we now know, because we forced the niche... This is where it gets really complicated, Jeremy. We forced the IPC to have the niche system rebuilt, which is basically the police record system, because we knew that they were potentially not telling the truth.
Yeah. And you know why? Because it was a black guy. That's all that it was about. Well, we can't keep records of this because, oh gosh, then we'll seem racist and it'll look like we're bigoted against black people. And oh gosh, we can't keep this guy in the mental asylum, even though he's literally crazy and dangerous, because, you know, that would just be like racist, and due to social justice and things like that, we need to let him back out into the community so that he can terrorize it, so that we can feel like we're not racist. This kind of crazy fucking thinking is what has destroyed so much of our society. It has damaged so many lives, has destroyed so many people's lives, has caused so many problems. This fucking PC bullshit, it has to stop. It can't continue to go on because we're seeing the effects of it now, and it's absolutely insane that these fucking pussies are so concerned about this kind of shit. Keep this guy out of the public. I don't care what color his skin is. These people are so obsessed with skin color and with not holding black people to account for anything, or Pakistanis to account for anything. Oh, they're brown people, so we can't arrest them because then we'll look like we're racists. Fuck that. Arrest these people. Keep them out of the public. Get rid of them. They're useless. What are we doing here? It's absolutely crazy. And we get daily stories like this in the United States. You know, dangerous guy arrested 41 times, let out on bond, and then stabbed somebody to death on a train. Every day there's a story like that. It's like, Anybody with any kind of sense, anybody with an IQ over 70 would know that this guy is dangerous and he's going to do something bad again. And you just let him out. You don't even sentence him, don't even give him any kind of punishment, nothing. Just kind of like, well, I don't know, he's black, so I guess there's nothing we can do. I mean, talk about black privilege. It's like, what, the laws don't apply just because you're black? We have to let you back out into society to murder somebody or to break into somebody's house or assault somebody? It's retarded. And they usually go back into a community of black people, so the black people are the ones who have to suffer the results of these kinds of stupid policies. And then the judge is sitting up there all proud of themselves like, yeah, racial justice, social justice, baby. Social justice means the black community gets to get terrorized even more by this monster. Aren't I a good person? It's fucking insane. And along those same lines, we got this guy.
To the degree that we see now in society where a lot of judges are this whole restorative justice mentality of not really punishing criminals legally and holding them accountable because of this feminine impulse to care for the offender, that can lead to a very severe society destabilizing situation when criminals are being basically punished more leniently because the judicial system has become feminized. And the idea of punitive incarceration or punitive punishment is seen as too unfair or unjust. And that's really where the feminization of the legal system could come into a situation where it really impacts the mental health of a society, is if criminal conduct is not punished appropriately.
Well, and also like the I keep seeing these statistics that show that really the vast majority of crime is done by a very small number of people. So the obvious thing is remove them from society. Of course, treat them humanely and everything else. That would be, I think, the right way. But remove them, right? Otherwise, you keep having tons of crime that you don't need to.
Mm-hmm. Recidivism.
I mean, how is this not just? Yeah, this is so easy. It's so easy. And we've made it so difficult because we have a bunch of retards running the justice system. A bunch of people who learned all this mythology, this bullshit mythology. Somehow you can let these violent criminals back on the streets and somehow they'll be grateful and they'll turn their lives around because of it. You just lock them up, basically. They just got to stay in prison forever. And it's only like 1 or 2% of the population that causes almost all the crime. So you just lock those people up and you leave them in there. You don't have to feel bad about it. We know the stats. We know the facts. They're going to reoffend. And some innocent person is going to be the victim. Some innocent person is going to be the one who has to pay so that you can feel good about yourself for letting them out. It's fucked up. Because it's just so meany to just lock them up. No, it's not. That's the compassionate thing to do for the actual citizens out there who are going to be victimized. We don't have to care about the criminals. We need to care about the citizens. This whole social justice bullshit is an inversion to where the criminal is the one that we have to be the most concerned about, and we have to care about them the most, not the innocent people out there that they're going to terrorize and lives they're going to destroy and daughters they're going to rape and people they're going to stab. See, they don't care about those people. And goes right down the whole leftist playbook. They don't care about the citizens. They don't care about the normal person. They don't care about the majority of people out there. They don't care about any of that stuff. They think all those people suck. They think that they're plebes. They think that they're morons. They think that they deserve whatever they get, and that they choose these tiny little groups like violent criminals. And they're like, those are the people that really matter. Those are the people we really need to focus on. We really need to fight for. We really need to fight for gay rights. We really need to fight for all these small little niche groups, and they're the ones that really matter. Whereas if it's really democracy, then it's us, the majority, who get to decide how the country goes, not you with your stupid little criminal justice crap. Instead, you put all the rest of us at risk. So that you can feel like you're somehow doing restorative justice. See, it's all a mythology. It's an ideology that they have that's detached from reality. They wish that it worked in a way that they could just let these criminals out and they would be fine and they wouldn't reoffend. They were going to. It's clear as day. We've got the stats that show it plain as day. But they don't want to accept it. They don't want to accept that that's the case because they want to feel good. They don't like reality. So, and if we need any more proof as to why people are moving out of blue states into red states, we've got this bridge to nowhere thing that the California, more wasted taxpayer money, this wildlife bridge that they're building across the interstate. Colorado built one for $15 million, and it took them a year to build it. But in California, $120 million in 4 years, and it's still not done. And this is the lady who's in charge.
When we started stage 1 and we're waiting to start stage 2, the world changed beneath us, though.
You suppose this is an engineer right here? What business does this woman have building a bridge? She's probably some idiot who glues her hands to the highway and chains herself to trees to save the trees and all this kind of bullshit. And here she's in charge of designing this wildlife bridge to go over. It takes 4 years, $120 million. I was thinking it was supposed to only cost $10 million.
This spring, construction costs increased considerably. And although we were holding reserves to finish construction, all those are exhausted at this point because of tariffs, inflation, and so many other factors.
Oh, because of tariffs.
Projects, not just ours. So we need your help one more time to get us to the finish line and help us build back those reserves so that we can ensure that we finalize construction by November so we can all cut that ribbon together. What a moment that will be. And like you, I can't wait to see that first mountain lion cross.
I mean, it's just funny. This is how Democrats do everything. Way over budget, takes way longer than we expected because they have all incompetent people doing everything. She's probably hiring her friend's husband to do the concrete work, who's not qualified, and probably hiring this consultant firm to do it, who was like her roommate in college. And it's all cronyism, and it doesn't work. It makes no sense. And not only that, then we get this. Los Angeles Democrats spent over $20 million in taxpayer money to house just 32 homeless people. $20 million for 32 people. And 5 years later, not a single person has a roof over their head. $20 million, zero results. In 2020, the city of Los Angeles purchased a Ramada Inn for $10 million to convert it into homeless housing. They poured in another $10 million. 5 years later, the project still isn't finished. That comes out to roughly $625,000 per person so far, and not one person has been housed. Is that the kind of a state you want to live in? Is that the kind of leadership you want to be involved with? Is that what you want to give your tax money for?
2x4s. An exclusive look at the Marina Del Rey multi-million-dollar homeless housing project, where for years neighbors say construction has been slow.
Where are the workers? Where is the urgency?
The city of LA bought the former Ramada Inn on Washington Boulevard in 2020 for $10.2 million. It was used as interim homeless housing before shutting down in 2022 to be converted into permanent supportive housing. Since then, for almost 4 years, the property has sat unfinished.
Why does it take so long and such a waste of money? There's nothing to even show for it.
City documents reveal the nonprofit Path took almost 2 years to get permits approved, and by then they needed even more money. The city added another $1.5 million in homeless housing funds.
The nonprofit. It's a nonprofit in charge. Every time. It's these NGOs, nonprofits, they can't get anything done and they blow through all the money because it gets stolen and it gets siphoned off into the pockets of their friends. Every single time. And yet they just keep giving them more and more money. It's just...
Plus loans and grants, bringing the total price tag to around $20 million for just 32 units.
$10 million purchase that was gifted to Path, without really any other approval from the neighbors.
Could certainly do with it around here to have people living in there. There's a lot of craziness out here.
So right next to the building, we're seeing a pile of what looks like used toilet paper and then possibly a homeless encampment.
I keep hearing from our local electeds that we're in a crisis. Where's the urgency? We have 30 rooms here that should have remained open for the last 6 years.
City officials now admit the project exposed major flaws in the process. In a new report, the administrator urges to not authorize the demobilization of any project home key sites until full funding has been secured. Expected completion now by the end of the year.
Last year, they said it was going to open in spring, and then in winter, they said it was going to open in summer. And if you take a look around, I bet you it won't be open next summer.
It'll
Back
never
out
get
here,
done.
Mike will show you construction still very much ongoing. City officials estimate the project should be done by the end of the year. Nearby residents not very optimistic. Reporting in Marina Del Rey, Matt.
It will never get done. And this is what people don't understand. You got to think like these retards who run these nonprofits, okay? If the project gets done, then the money is done. The longer they draw out the process, the more money they get to then pay themselves, pay their friends, siphon off into their little groups, and they just make it last as long as possible. They don't get it. There's no incentive to actually get it done because when it's done, then the funding stops. This isn't rocket science, people. This is easy. This is why these projects never get completed. And no one's ever held responsible. It's fucking crazy. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. So thanks for joining me. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk to you later.